Your snake is coiled in your lap right now, not striking, not fleeing, not doing the thing that everyone who has never owned a snake assumes snakes do around people. Just there. Loose. Calm. Moving at their own pace while you sit still. Most people looking at that moment would say the snake is comfortable, and most snake owners would quietly agree and quietly hope it was true. But here's the thing about snakes. They do not perform comfort. They do not stay somewhere. They do not feel safe. 7 signs your snake actually trusts you. 1. They explore freely during handling. Pick up a snake that does not trust you and watch what happens. The body tightens. The head stays elevated and oriented toward you as a threat. Movement is controlled and purposeful, not exploration. The snake is assessing the situation and looking for an exit. Pick up a snake that trusts you, and the behavior is categorically different. The body loosens. The head drops into the environment rather than toward you. The tongue flicks not in alarm, but in curiosity. The snake moves across your hands and arms, not because it is escaping, but because it is exploring, using you as terrain. Research on reptile stress responses confirms that elevated muscle tone and sustained head-raised posture are reliable indicators of threat activation in snakes. The absence of those indicators during handling is not neutral. It is the active expression of a calmed threat system. When your snake explores freely on you, not searching for escape, not monitoring you as a threat, but genuinely investigating the environment using you as a base, you are watching a nervous system that has filed you as safe. That filing took time, and the snake does not file things incorrectly. But sign 2 is quieter than this, and most owners walk past it every day without recognizing it. 2. They tongue flick toward you specifically. The tongue of a snake is not a defensive organ. It is a sensory one. Every time a snake flicks its tongue, it is collecting chemical information from the environment and delivering it to the Jacobson's organ in the roof of its mouth, a secondary olfactory system that processes scent information the nose misses entirely. Tongue flicking toward a threat is different from tongue flicking toward something interesting. High-frequency rapid flicking directed at a specific source is investigative urgency. Slow, relaxed tongue flicking with no particular directional focus is baseline environmental reading. When your snake consistently tongue flicks toward your hand or arm during calm handling, not at rapid alarmed frequency, but in the slow, deliberate pattern of a snake reading something familiar, it is reading you, your scent, your warmth. The specific chemical signature that its sensory system has mapped is the person who is safe. Research on chemosensory recognition in snakes has documented that individual snakes respond differently to familiar versus unfamiliar human scent, showing fewer stress indicators and more exploratory behavior in response to the specific scent of their regular handler. Your snake knows what you smell like, and the tongue flick toward you is the sensory equivalent of recognition. Sign 3 is the most visible sign on this list, and the one most owners misinterpret entirely. 3. They hold position when you approach the enclosure. A snake that is not comfortable with you will move away when you approach the enclosure. Not always dramatically, sometimes just a subtle repositioning, a slow withdrawal toward a hide, an elevated posture that says the threat assessment has activated. A snake that trusts you does something different. It holds position. Sometimes it even orients toward you, moving toward the glass rather than away from it. In the wild, a snake's primary survival strategy against a large approaching animal is concealment or retreat. Staying in the open and holding position when something your size approaches is not the neutral default. It is an active override of an instinct that has kept snakes alive for millions of years. Research on reptile habituation to human presence has shown that regular positive handling significantly reduces the flight initiation distance in captive snakes, the distance at which a snake begins moving away from an approaching stimulus. A snake that has been consistently treated well by a specific person will tolerate approach distances that a stranger would never achieve. When your snake holds position as you approach, it is recognizing you, and deciding that recognition means there is nothing to run from. Sign 4 is about something your snake does when you are completely still, and it says more than almost anything else on this list. 4. They rest their head on you. The head of a snake is its most critical asset and its most vulnerable point. It contains the sensory organs, the venom apparatus in venomous species, and the primary threat assessment system. In the wild, a snake holds its head with intention, elevated when alert, concealed when resting, never simply placed on a surface without purpose. When a snake rests its head on your hand, your arm, your leg, loose, heavy, without the elevated tension that characterizes alertness, it is doing something that requires a specific neurological state. The threat assessment has to be fully resolved. The environment has to be reading as safe. The body has to be in genuine rest. Studies on stress indicators in captive reptiles have documented that muscle relaxation in the cervical region, the area behind the head, is one of the most reliable behavioral markers of low cortisol and low threat activation. You cannot fake that relaxation. The snake cannot perform it for your benefit. It is physiological. When your snake's head rests on you with weight and looseness, you are holding something that has decided completely that you are not a threat. That decision does not come easily to an animal whose entire evolutionary history was built around the assumption that large things approaching meant danger. But sign 5 is the one that changes what most keepers thought they understood about snake cognition. Stay with me. 5. They respond differently to you than to strangers. This is the sign most experienced keepers find genuinely surprising the first time they see it clearly. Hand your snake to someone it does not know. Watch what happens. The body tightens. The tongue-flicking frequency goes up. The snake orients toward the new person as an unknown variable and begins the assessment process from zero. Take the snake back. The body loosens within seconds. This is not just about scent. Research published in Behavioral Herpetology has documented that snakes distinguish between familiar and unfamiliar handlers, not just through chemosensory recognition, but through a combination of thermal signature, movement pattern, and contact pressure. Your snake has built a multi-sensory profile of you specifically, and it reads differently from every other human the snake has encountered. Your snake is not just tolerating handling. It has built an individual recognition profile for you that shapes how its nervous system responds to your specific presence. That is not a simple learned association. That is something closer to what we recognize as a relationship. Sign 6 is something that happens while you are not even in the room. 6. They emerge from hiding when they sense you nearby. Snakes spend the majority of their time in concealment. This is not a sign of stress in a well-kept snake. It is normal behavior for an ambush predator whose survival strategy is invisibility. A snake that is genuinely comfortable in its enclosure will use its hides. But something interesting happens when a well-bonded snake consistently begins emerging from hiding at specific times, the times that correlate with your presence near the enclosure. Research on reptile cognitive mapping has documented that snakes associate specific environmental cues with predictable outcomes. The vibration of your footsteps, the particular way the light shifts when you enter the room, the thermal change as you approach. These cues, repeated consistently and associated with neutral or positive outcomes, produce anticipatory behavior. The snake begins to move before you have even opened the enclosure. Your snake is not psychic. It has mapped your patterns, and those mapped patterns have been consistently associated with something that does not end badly. That is a form of trust, not the dramatic version, not the anthropomorphized version. The version that actually exists in the nervous system of a reptile that has decided a specific human is a predictable and safe part of its world. Sign 7 is the last one, and it is the quietest, and in some ways the most meaningful on this list. 7. They recover quickly when you make a mistake. Every snake owner makes handling mistakes. A sudden movement, an awkward grip, a moment of startled reaction that produces exactly the kind of abrupt stimulus that triggers a defensive response in an untrusting snake. Watch what a snake does with those mistakes when it trusts you. It processes them and returns to baseline. It might flinch. It might momentarily tighten, but the recovery is fast. The threat system activates briefly and deactivates just as quickly, because the overall assessment of you as a safe individual overrides the momentary alarm signal. A snake that does not trust you does not have that override, Every mistake is processed against a baseline of unresolved threat assessment. The flinch does not recover. The tightening holds, because the underlying assessment has never resolved in your favor. Your snake forgiving your handling mistakes, returning to a relaxed state after a startled moment, settling back against you after an awkward grip, is the snake drawing on accumulated evidence about you and concluding again that you are safe. That conclusion was built one interaction at a time. Every calm handling session, every approach that ended without incident, every time you moved slowly and came back the same way. The trust you see in your snake is not something that was given. It was earned. And the 7 signs on this list are your snake telling you, in the only language it has, that the earning worked. The free exploration using you as terrain, the slow tongue flick of recognition, the held position as you approach, the head resting heavy and loose on your arm, the body that loosens the moment you take it back from a stranger, the emerging from hiding when it senses you nearby, and the fast recovery when you inevitably get it slightly wrong. All of it is real. None of it is performed. Your snake does not do favors. What you have built is what you see.